Hi, I'm Buki. I'm here in my studio in Berlin-Kreuzberg. Welcome. I'm really happy to show you my work and what I do and where I work. I am a Nigerian-German fashion designer. I studied fashion design here in Berlin and started my label 2016. I'm doing contemporary sustainable fashion. I would say African fashion. I only do one collection a year to raise awareness about consumerism and to slow down a little bit because the actual fashion system is running so fast and it's based on exploitation, and I want to shift the system and change the way we produce and how we consume. So the concept of my collection is actually I have a wide basic range which contains shirts, pants and jumpers, and also a dress. Plain colors in white, grey or navy, and they're not replaced every season, so I have them during several seasons and years, and sometimes I change colors or a little bit adjust the shape. And then I add them by quilt pieces. And the quilt pieces are made of a mix of the African wax print and the plain fabric, where I use a certain technique which takes a lot of time to produce, and the pieces are also reversible. So they're, you can wear them for any occasion. If you feel like you want to wear something classy, you wear, for example, the jumper in a plain color and you see the texture through the stitching, or you turn it around and you wear vibrant colors and kind of an eye catcher. So for creating the quilt piece, it's kind of a long process because I have different layers of fabric. I have the African wax prints, which you see here, and then I have a plain fabric, which you see on the other side, and in the middle there's a padding, which you see here. First of all I have to cut all the layers of fabrics. Afterwards I tuck them together and then I start sewing. So here you see how I follow the lines to create the pattern. So on one side you have the pattern with the texture. It's getting a little bit of three-dimensional. And on the other side it's just a unicolor with the stitches. And before I start with my final piece, I do a lot of trials. So here you see, for example, that's the same fabric, but here I used another fabric on the other side and also another color of stitches. And here as well. So it's always, I try and look how I like which kind of aesthetic I like and I want to show. Also afterwards, because then you have the raw edges and I want to have a clean and nice finish, I use a binding for all the pieces that are quilted. So that's how a final quilt piece looks like. So here you can choose to wear the pattern side, or you turn it around and have just the canvas. And there's also the possibility to custom-made it. So you can choose the plain fabric that you like, which one you prefer. Either you want a darker color or the same color that I used. And then you can also choose the African wax print that you prefer. So you have a kind of unique piece for yourself. That's also possible. I'm happy to have a wonderful, lovely guest here, Beatrace. Hi. Nice to have you here. Beatrace Angut Oola is an interdisciplinary fashion curator, creative producer, advocate and guest lecturer at the University of Arts in Bremen, based in Hamburg and Kampala. She has also spearheaded the conversation around inclusivity, curated exhibitions in Germany and worked on knowledge exchange projects in Africa, and has also championed best-in-class practitioners in the diaspora. In 2012, she launched the first high-end fashion platform, Africa Fashion Day Berlin, in the frame of Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Berlin, and founded the creative agency Apia Productions that focuses on Made in Africa. She's a trailblazer for the African fashion movement in Germany. So hey Beatrice, I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the African fashion movement, decolonizing fashion. Since decolonizing fashion now it's a buzz. What are your thoughts?
I feel like fashion definitely needs to be decolonized because the whole fashion system is based on exploitation, especially on exploitation of marginalized people, women, people of color, black people, indigenous people. So there definitely needs to be a change.
Definitely. It's just like, if you think of it, you use the term decolonization. So colonization is embedded. And this is what I think is a kind of critical aspect, because it means the colonizers are now the ones who are going to decolonize. And to me, it doesn't make sense. You have a system, a fashion system, that was built on white supremacy. You have more or less a white-focused ideology. Mm-hmm. And now this system that is actually rotten wants to decolonize. And therefore, I think it's very important when we're in these debates, what is also led by white women, white academics. I wonder, since it's about a movement, it's also about the African fashion movement, voices of African origin, mm-hmm. voices of indigenous origin should actually be the leading people discussing it. So what do you think, what would be also a kind of way to push forward the culture, but really also embedding Black, indigenous people of color?
I think it starts, for me, it starts with myself as a person of color and a person who grew up in both different societies. I grew up in here in Germany with the whole colonized system in a way, and also in Nigeria. So for me, I want to take responsibility in being an example and also being part of the change. And therefore I'm really happy about your platform, because when I met you a few years ago, I felt so empowered by the event that you were hosting, meeting so many other designers of the diaspora and from the continent, to exchange ideas, to see that I'm not alone here in Germany doing what I do, and to have a feeling of we are also part of the movement and we can also have our seat at the table and create our own table. So
yeah, exactly. Good that you mentioned the event, we were doing in frame of Fashion Africa now. And this is the case, it's about access, who has access, mm-hmm. who has, again, power, who is making, all the decisions, price politics. If you think of cotton, is there a big difference among the prices? If you think of organic cotton, compare, to the industrialized cotton, what are your thoughts?
There is a difference, but it's not that big. I remember I learned it at university and I was really wondering why the difference is not so big. So I think there definitely needs to be a change to really pay the true costs in the whole supply chain, so everyone can profit from it, and it's not no exploitation on any point of the whole supply chain.
Absolutely. And since you said you're into the African fashion movement, but currently you're still producing in Europe, right? So what is your next step? Where do you want to go with your brand?
Yeah, my next step is focusing more on the continent, getting connected with people, especially in West Africa, because that's where my heritage is and where my family comes from. And I want to produce there as well. Maybe not 100% there, but here and in Africa and...
All right, sounds good. And also in this context, I need to point out, you're using wax prints. And wax prints, it's a Dutch fabric. And also rooted in colonization.
It is, yeah.
And what I also and based on exploitation. So what is also your next step with your fabrics? Do you also plan to source in African countries, or do you have already plans for that?
That's definitely my plan. It was also my plan at the beginning, but at the beginning it was quite difficult for me to source fabrics from Africa while I was based here. But
why was it difficult to source fabrics?
I went to Senegal for a trip for the sourcing, but somehow I didn't meet the right people. Because they're like what you said, a lot of textile companies are actually not African. So if you want to buy the wax prints, for example, it's at the end you end up buying the Dutch fabric in Africa. It's made in Africa, but it's not the African fabric. So on that point, when I realized that, I decided to buy the fabric in Europe because I know where it comes from. And but for the future, I want to buy more and more, not the wax prints, the ones that I'm using right now, but indigo, natural dyed fabric, because there's a big scene of artisans as well. And I think now it's more and more arising because the awareness is there and people also are more proud of their heritage and of their arts and crafts.
Exactly.
So that's my goal.
Wonderful, sounds good. Because this is the point, because I guess also it's not always easy to access from a different continent, you know, and therefore it's so good that we have now this movement and we have different platforms that make it easier. And when I think of also Adire, you know, beautiful, beautiful textile made in, yes, you know, or you have also Kente, you have back cloth in Uganda. And the fact that now too many young designers on the continent are absolutely aware of the heritage, you know, and what I really see is also the link up with the diaspora, so you can really also collaborate, you know, and find now ways to work together. And this is, I think, a beautiful change if you look into the movement, since it's young, it's still fresh, and you're here, and so I find it amazing that you're going to be going towards Africa.
Dive more deep.
Yes, you know. And then who are your, if you also think of, Germany or UK, France, can you also compare the scenes, the African fashion scenes? Or
between the countries?
Yes.
I would say, from my experience, the German scene is pretty small. I think it's bigger in the UK and in France, but there's also a bigger African community based on colonization. So that's a difference between Germany and France and UK. But through you, a whole new universe explored for me, because right now there are more and more designers of African descent in Germany, Switzerland and Austria as well. And it's really nice to connect and exchange and trying to change the narrative of African fashion together.
Exactly. This is actually a good point you're making, because this is also what I believe is so important in this movement, to understand that the narrative cannot be any more controlled by Western ideologies. So if we really want to make a step forward, it means we need to share the narrative.
And tell our stories.
Exactly. And there need to be space, because the controlling, it should actually die out. And this is so important, that we have more of these conversations, and we need more platforms, you know, to be visible. What would you say? Do you find there's a visibility over here in Germany for creatives of African heritage, for Black, Indigenous people of color?
Maybe a small one, and I think it also changed last summer after the whole racism debate. But when I started my brand, I was kind of invisible, and it was really hard to get visible. And actually, through your platform, I felt kind of a empowered backup to be more visible and also to feel more confident in getting more and more visible.
Wow.
How was it for you?
Yes, I mean, for me, since my goal was, I realized that there's a misconception. I realized there's a lack of awareness. That's why I started. When I started nearly 8 years ago, I noticed that we're not visible, and I was wondering, you know, I'm a Black woman, I've been born in Germany, I'm raised here, and why can't I not buy African fashion? Why is it not a topic in the media? And therefore I said, okay, you have two options. Either I complain or I start something on my own.
Yeah.
And I just decided to start something to give awareness to all these brands and to push forward the culture and to make sure that there's a kind of connection between the dots, and knowledge plays an important role. And I think, yeah, what we did on our event, knowledge exchange, you meeting up with other brands, and this is so important, the empowering part and our perspective, I think, yeah, what we said.
And then also educating, because I think one big problem is that people are not educated and don't know about all the topics, and especially the view from the global north towards the global south, and it's on us to change it.
Exactly, you know, and this is the point, because it's so important to be aware of, also if you're a sustainable brand and you still feed into the rotten system by not really taking a look into your brand.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, great.
You know.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here and, you know, talking about what we usually do.
Yeah, and there's many more events and things coming up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so for all the future designers of African descent, we are here.
Yes, we are right here. We are here to support, empower. Let's build, grow together, and made in Africa. This is what it is.
Let's change the narrative.
Breaking stereotypes and shaping the future.